If I were to speak to you like June, July last year, I would have brought to you a very, very positive picture of Africa. We were all very enthusiastic that peace was spreading and it was consolidating in the continent. Our performance in terms of economic growth was one of the best in the history of this continent for almost a decade. I would have told you that even in terms of development of civil society organizations, the way we interact with elected bodies, whether it's government, it's parliament and African Union, you name it, it was really very, very encouraging. But then suddenly, like at the second half of the year, things started to change. My South African Minister of Finance just made a very revealing statement to say, this crisis tells us that all we thought we knew about economy is an issue of the past. We have to start from square zero to try to understand. It shows how deep this crisis is in terms of saying we haven't even grasped its depth, its impact, and day after day, new revelations of situations which we are not counting on are coming to our table. And Trevor Manuel is he has been considered one of the best ministers of finance in our times. And he told us, and we were shocked, that he doesn't know anything about the economy today. That's the risk. And I'm saying this to say the financial crisis, it's not, of course, it's not a making of African countries, but African countries are the ones who are going to pay the highest, as always, the highest price of this. I know you are already familiar with what I'm going to say, but again, in terms of those who need to get food, buying food, I mean, food has doubled, you know, prices has doubled. Investment in agriculture, I mentioned, it has never been good, but now it's going to be even worse in terms of availability of resources to invest in agriculture. You know, our heads of states made a commitment to say 10% of budgets would go to agriculture. But let me tell you, none of them has achieved that so far. Even those who are considered to be more developed, they haven't invested enough in agriculture. Then we have, you know, we as women, we are producers, but we have never been involved in the planning. We have never been involved in allocation of resources, never been involved in what it is, I mean, to get access to technologies, and even what the simple thing of talking of rural extension. And just a few of women probably would have been, or they are in commercial farming with vegetables, maybe with the flowers, and very little of those you can find in cocoa or its coffee or its tea, etc., etc. So this financial crisis comes to aggravate the marginalization of those who are food producers in terms of the implications then of the social cohesion I mentioned. But the other issue is that this financial crisis is bringing back our husbands and our sons who were employed. Just to mention here, in South Africa, the mining industry has laid off about 20,000 of miners. And those 20,000 are not only South Africans. It spreads, they are Mozambicans, they are Malawians, they are in the region, Lesotho, etc., etc. Unemployment, it means they go back home. And when they go back home, they go where? To that household run by the women. So We were supposed to complement the little of food. Now we have to take up the fact that there's no supplementary which was coming from our husbands who are working. Even worse, we have them coming back frustrated, and they are going to be a bigger problem for us. We are laughing, but this means in terms of instability in social fabric, in terms of social fabric of this, at least of this sub-region, which is not to ignore. The impact is simply as this. And I'm talking of mining industry, but the automobile industry, where it does exist, of course it is already, paying the price. Because no one, and we are, many of us now, Africans, they become very quickly producers of raw materials. It's mineral resources, it's oil, it's gas. The growth we had a decade ago, it was, you go any sub-region of Africa, suddenly we discovered the resources we have, and we have been trading with the developed world. But that's what they are telling us today, that they don't need them anymore because they can't pay. So we'll be left with our mineral resources, we'll be left with and even the biggest importers like China and others, they are reducing their imports sharply. So the financial crisis is already with us, and it is already impacting on our table.